On August 5, 2026, a Silk Way West Airlines Boeing 747 took off from Mexico City, Mexico, with Houston, Texas as its planned destination. At first, it appeared to be a normal cargo flight, another long-distance journey carried out by one of the largest aircraft in the world. The Boeing 747 freighter was built for heavy cargo operations, international routes, and long hours in the sky. The crew started the flight with a clear plan, a calculated fuel load, and a destination waiting ahead. But as the journey continued, the situation began to change. The aircraft that was supposed to arrive in Houston eventually found itself over the Dallas area, creating a situation that would turn an ordinary cargo flight into an aviation story filled with questions, urgency, and careful decision-making. The biggest concern was not just the unexpected location of the aircraft, but the amount of fuel remaining. Every aircraft depends on precise fuel planning. And for a massive Boeing 747, fuel management is one of the most important parts of any flight. Before departure, pilots and flight dispatchers carefully calculate how much fuel is required. They consider the aircraft's weight, weather conditions, planned route, possible delays, and alternate airports. The aircraft does not carry fuel only for the perfect journey. Extra fuel is included because aviation is unpredictable. Weather can force a change in direction. Air traffic can create delays. Airports can become unavailable. A flight may need to divert. These possibilities are considered before the aircraft even leaves the runway. When the Boeing 747 departed from Mexico City, the crew expected to follow the planned route toward Houston. Inside the cockpit, the pilots were monitoring every important system. They were watching altitude, speed, navigation information, engine performance, and fuel levels. For most flights, these tasks are routine. Thousands of aircraft fly every day, and most journeys happen exactly as planned. But aviation is an environment where conditions can change quickly. A route that looks simple on paper can become more complicated once the aircraft is in the air. During this flight, the aircraft's position became unusual. Instead of continuing directly toward Houston, the Boeing 747 ended up in the Dallas area. For people watching a flight tracking map, the first question would be obvious. Why was an aircraft heading to Houston now near Dallas? However, a flight map only shows movement. It does not always explain the reason behind that movement. Aircraft can change routes for many reasons. Air traffic control may provide new instructions. Weather systems may affect the flight path. Operational requirements may require adjustments. The crew may make decisions based on the situation they are facing. Without complete investigation information, the exact reason for the route change cannot be confirmed. But one thing became increasingly important: fuel. Fuel is the most valuable resource during any flight, because once it is used, it cannot be replaced while the aircraft is airborne. Every additional mile flown consumes more fuel. Every extra minute in the sky reduces the remaining margin. For a Boeing 747 carrying cargo, the calculation becomes even more significant because of the aircraft's size and fuel requirements. The crew must constantly compare the actual fuel remaining with the amount they expected to have at that stage of the journey. If the aircraft is taking longer than planned or flying a different route, the situation must be reassessed. Pilots are trained to think ahead. They do not wait until a problem becomes impossible to solve. They evaluate their options early and decide what action provides the safest outcome. As the Boeing 747 continued, the crew became concerned about the available fuel. They eventually contacted air traffic control and declared a pan-pan urgency call. In aviation, this phrase has a specific meaning. It is not the same as a Mayday emergency call, but it tells controllers that an aircraft has an urgent situation requiring attention. The message allows the aviation system to understand that the aircraft needs priority and assistance. In this case, the issue was fuel. The crew informed controllers that they were running low and needed help managing the situation. Reports indicated that the aircraft had a limited amount of fuel remaining, making time an important factor. A fuel concern does not mean an aircraft will immediately lose power, but it does mean the crew must carefully manage every remaining minute. Fuel consumption depends on many things, including altitude, speed, aircraft weight, and engine settings. The remaining fuel has to cover more than just flying toward an airport. The aircraft also needs fuel for descent, approach, and landing. That is why fuel emergencies are treated seriously. Once air traffic control received the urgency call, the situation became a coordinated effort between the cockpit and the ground. Controllers could help by adjusting traffic, reducing unnecessary delays, and assisting the aircraft in reaching a suitable runway. In busy airspace, this support can make a major difference. The goal was no longer simply to complete the original flight plan. The goal was to make the safest decision possible and bring the aircraft safely back to the ground. For the pilots, the situation required focus and discipline. They were operating a huge aircraft while managing communication, navigation, and fuel concerns at the same time. This is exactly why airline crews train for unexpected situations. They learn how to stay calm, follow procedures, and make decisions under pressure. The most important skill during an emergency is not speed or fear. It is clear thinking. The Boeing 747 was now facing a challenge that would test the crew's experience and the aviation system's ability to respond. The aircraft had moved away from its original plan. Fuel had become a major concern, and every decision from that moment would matter. The next stage of the flight would determine how this unusual journey would end. As the Boeing 747 continued through the Dallas area, the focus inside the cockpit became even more serious. The aircraft was no longer simply following a normal flight plan. The crew had to carefully evaluate every option available to them. In aviation, a difficult situation is not solved by making a quick decision without thinking. It is solved by collecting information, understanding the risks, and choosing the safest path forward. The pilots had to consider the aircraft's current location, remaining fuel, possible airports, weather conditions, and the amount of time required to complete a safe landing. The Boeing 747 is one of the largest aircraft ever built, and operating such a machine requires precision. Every action during a descent and approach must be carefully controlled. A large aircraft cannot simply turn toward an airport and land immediately. The crew must follow procedures, manage speed, control altitude, and prepare the aircraft systems for landing. While this was happening, air traffic control was also working to support the flight. Once controllers knew the aircraft had a fuel-related urgency, they could begin making adjustments around it. In a busy area like Dallas, many aircraft may be operating at the same time. Controllers have to manage all of those movements while creating the safest possible path for an aircraft that needs priority. This teamwork between pilots and controllers is one of the most important parts of aviation safety. The people on the ground and the crew in the cockpit are constantly sharing information and working toward the same goal. The aircraft's original destination was Houston, but the situation had changed. In aviation, the original plan is always secondary to safety. A pilot is not required to continue toward a destination if doing so creates unnecessary risk. If another airport provides a safer option, the aircraft can divert. If a route becomes unsuitable, it can be changed. These decisions are not failures, they are examples of professional judgment. During this flight, the crew had to think beyond the original plan. Their responsibility was not simply to complete the route they started. Their responsibility was to protect the aircraft, crew, and cargo. As the aircraft moved closer to the landing phase, the remaining fuel became even more important. Every aircraft burns fuel during descent, approach, and landing. Even after leaving cruising altitude, the engines continue consuming fuel. This means pilots must calculate not only whether they can reach an airport, but also whether they can complete the entire landing process safely. A runway is not reached instantly. The aircraft must descend, line up, slow down, and touch down under controlled conditions. The pilots were managing this process while knowing that time was limited. This is where experience becomes extremely valuable. Airline pilots spend years training for situations that may never happen during normal operations. They practice emergency procedures, communication methods, and decision-making skills. The purpose of training is to prepare crews to handle pressure without losing focus. A serious situation does not mean the cockpit becomes chaotic. In many cases, the opposite happens. Trained professionals become more structured and follow their procedures carefully. The pan-pan call had already started the process of coordination. Air traffic control understood that the aircraft needed attention. The crew understood that support was available. This communication reduced uncertainty and allowed everyone involved to work toward the same objective. The situation also shows why aviation depends on early communication. If a crew waits too long before reporting a problem, the number of available solutions can decrease. But when pilots communicate early, controllers have more time to organize assistance. This can make the difference between a manageable situation and a much more difficult one. As the Boeing 747 approached the next stage of the flight, the aircraft's position became more favorable. The distance to the ground was decreasing, and the crew was moving closer to ending the fuel concern. But the final approach still required careful attention. A landing is one of the most important phases of any flight. During normal operations, pilots already give the approach phase their full concentration. During a fuel-related urgency, that focus becomes even greater. The aircraft must arrive at the runway in a stable condition. The speed must be correct. The altitude must be controlled. The landing configuration must be prepared at the appropriate time. Every step matters. A mistake during the final moments of flight can create additional challenges, so the crew must balance urgency with accuracy. This is one of the reasons why aviation procedures are designed around safety rather than speed alone. The fastest option is not always the safest option. The correct option is the one that gives the aircraft the best chance of completing the flight successfully. The Boeing 747 incident also highlights the importance of teamwork beyond the cockpit. While passengers and people on the ground often see only the aircraft, many professionals are involved in keeping a flight safe. Dispatchers help with planning. Controllers manage airspace. Maintenance teams ensure aircraft reliability. Airport staff prepare facilities and support operations. During unusual situations, all these parts of the aviation system become important. The aircraft itself may be impressive, but the human coordination behind it is what allows aviation to function safely. The Boeing 747 was now approaching the final stage of a journey that had become very different from what was originally planned. The crew had handled the fuel concern, communicated with controllers, and continued moving toward a safe landing. The next moments would decide the final outcome of this unusual flight. The aircraft was close to completing its journey, but the most important part was still ahead. 747 was now entering the final moments of a flight that had started as a routine cargo operation, but it turned into an unexpected aviation challenge. After departing from Mexico City with Houston as the planned destination, the aircraft had ended up in the Dallas area, and the crew had faced a serious fuel concern. By declaring a pan-pan urgency call, the pilots made sure that air traffic control understood the situation and could provide the necessary support. Now the mission was simple but extremely important: complete a safe landing. Inside the cockpit, the pilots continued following their procedures. They monitored the aircraft's speed, altitude, navigation systems, and remaining fuel while preparing for the final approach. Even during a stressful situation, professional pilots rely on training and discipline. They do not focus on panic or pressure. They focus on making the correct decisions one step at a time. On the ground, air traffic control continued coordinating the surrounding airspace. Other aircraft movements could be adjusted to give the Boeing 747 the priority it needed. This cooperation between the crew and controllers represents one of the strongest parts of modern aviation safety. A single aircraft may be in the sky, but behind every safe landing is a large network of people working together. As the aircraft descended closer to the runway, the situation moved from uncertainty toward resolution. The crew had successfully managed the most critical part of the problem, keeping the aircraft safe while finding the best way to land. The Boeing 747 is a massive aircraft, and bringing it down safely requires careful control and experience. The approach had to be stable, the speed had to be accurate, and the aircraft had to be positioned correctly for touchdown. Eventually, the aircraft reached the runway and completed its landing safely. The fuel urgency that had created concern was now over. A flight that had taken an unexpected path had finally reached the ground. But even after a safe landing, many questions remained. Why did the aircraft traveling from Mexico City to Houston end up near Dallas? What caused the change in route? Was it related to air traffic instructions, weather, operational decisions, or another factor? These questions require detailed information and proper investigation. In aviation, it is important not to make conclusions based only on limited information. A flight tracking map can show where an aircraft traveled, but it cannot always explain the reasons behind every decision made during the flight. The full story often involves communication records, weather information, flight planning details, and operational data. What can be understood clearly is that the crew recognized a developing problem and communicated it before the situation became worse. That decision shows the importance of professional judgment. Aviation safety depends not only on technology, but also on people who know when to act and when to ask for help. The pan-pan call was an example of that responsibility. It allowed the aviation system to respond before the situation reached a more dangerous stage. This incident also teaches an important lesson about flight planning. A flight plan is created before departure, but it is not something that must be followed no matter what happens. Conditions can change, and pilots must be ready to adapt. The safest decision may sometimes mean changing the route, choosing a different airport, or adjusting the original plan completely. The goal of aviation is not simply reaching the destination written on a schedule. The goal is reaching the ground safely. The story of this Boeing 747 also reminds us how much teamwork exists behind every flight. The pilots in the cockpit, air traffic controllers managing the skies, dispatchers supporting decisions, and airport teams preparing for different situations all contribute to the final outcome. When unexpected problems appear, these systems work together to reduce risk. The aircraft itself may be one of the largest machines in the world, but aviation safety depends on human communication and decision-making. The Boeing 747 incident became memorable because it showed how quickly a normal flight can become a serious challenge. A planned journey from Mexico City to Houston became a situation involving an unexpected route, limited fuel, and an urgent request for assistance. But it also showed how trained professionals handled difficult moments. They communicated clearly, evaluated the situation, and worked toward the safest possible result. The biggest lesson from this event is that aviation is not about avoiding every possible problem. No system can guarantee that unexpected situations will never happen. Instead, aviation is built around preparation, teamwork, and the ability to respond when something changes. A route can change, a destination can change, a plan can change, but one thing always remains the same. This Boeing 747 flight will be remembered not only because it ended up somewhere unexpected, but because it demonstrated the importance of quick communication, careful decisions, and professional teamwork. In the world of aviation, every second matters, every decision matters, and every action matters. And when those decisions are made correctly, even a difficult situation can have a safe ending. That is the real story behind this unusual Boeing 747 journey. It was not just a flight that went off course. It was a reminder that behind every aircraft in the sky are people, procedures, and systems designed to bring it safely home.